What is up, Top Rope Nation? Back on the airwaves, Blue Wire Podcasting Network, SC Scoops, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. You know the drill. You know all of it. You also know that I am Kyle Ross, sitting in the host chair today as we are recording in the afternoon, Thursday, February 16th. Hopefully, everyone had a happy Valentine's Day earlier this week. And as you can see, if you're watching the video feed, I have a very special guest on the line today as we have a ton to talk about. Joining me on the program is the man who puts the friendly in friendly skies, a longtime friend of the program, Top Rope Nation's answer to Maverick, if you will, minus the Scientology, I believe. But raised in the shadow of Sims and Parcells and coming to us by way of the Pro Wrestling Torch, where they have been dutifully covering this industry since 1987. Your good friend and mine, Mr. Frank Pettiani. Frank, how the hell are you, man?
Kyle, my friend, thank you for that awesome intro. And yeah, if I try to do any maneuvers like Maverick, there will be many barf bags used because that is just not my bag. The very boring Airbus 320 that goes up, down, left, right is good enough for me. So there you go.
Yeah, and I know you're in Vegas right now. Hopefully, it's not a Denzel Washington flight situation going on. And I'm sure. No, this is a very responsible pilot, ladies and gentlemen. And Frank, we have a lot to cover today. As you know, the notes that we have gone over for this program, we are talking WWE, we are talking AEW. We are going to get a lot in over the next 90 minutes to 2 hours here in the program. What we will be covering, everybody: Elimination Chamber. That premium live event is, of course, Saturday. Of course, that's not going to be so evergreen if we just focus on Elimination Chamber and our predictions for the show. So we will be making our predictions here with an eye on WrestleMania. So it's going to be elimination predictions tied to a WrestleMania forecast. We will be also, in the world of WWE, talking about this absolutely heinous Baron Corbin debate that I'm seeing on social media. I have 2 cents there. I'm sure Frank does as well. Over in AEW, Dave Meltzer, Frank, says that promotion has a babyface problem. We're going to see if they do or not, or what we think about AEW, as they are a couple weeks away from their next pay-per-view, Revolution, March in San Francisco. So you ready to roll, man?
Let's do this, my man. Clear for takeoff.
Oh, there we go with the whole play thing. All right.
On brand, man. On brand.
Yes. All right. Elimination Chamber. Let's not just predict Saturday. Okay. Let's guess where those results may lead for WrestleMania. And we're going to start with what may be the most anticipated WWE match in some time. Mr. Pettiani, Roman Reigns against Sami Zayn. This is clicking big time with a lot of people. I think it's probably WWE's best storyline in ages. You know, how long, just how far back you want to go. I think just depends on how much, you've enjoyed or not enjoyed this promotion over the last decade or so. But I assume you're agreeing with me that Sami's not winning here. So I've got 2 questions for you. 1, should he win? 2, how do you go about booking the finish if he's not going to win?
Yeah. No, I mean, Sami shouldn't win. They have been building towards Cody going after the titles at WrestleMania for some time. It was it was obvious even when he went down with the injury. We all at that point said Royal Rumble, win the Rumble, go to WrestleMania. The story basically wrote itself. And it's gotten to the point where the pin Roman Reigns chip is now a big chip to play. It's not, this isn't the world title of the 2000s, where it just changed hands on a regular basis. Okay. And you guys have talked about that on this show. This is a pretty big deal. So if in fact they are going to go with Cody, all right, and I think that's the plan, then he should beat Roman. Okay. Now, could they have Sami Zayn win? Sure, it'd be a lot of balls on their part. It would be a departure from what we're used to, with the WWE and really just situations like that in general. You look at a match like this, you're like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. But, would people want to see a Cody Sami match at Mania? I would. I'd be into it. I'm sure you would. Mm-hmm. But It should be Cody and Roman. I think the most logical, okay, if we're assuming that Sammy and Kevin are going to reunite, probably here at Elimination Chamber in Montreal in front of their faithful, right? I think it
Mhm.
makes sense. You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
Jay should probably be the one that interferes and turns because a lot of the story has been built around Sammy getting Jay's approval. I mean, that's really what this has been about. It's been about
Mhm.
Sammy and Jay. So, if Jay is the one that turns, then you very easily set up that tag match between Kevin Owens and Sammy against the Usos. And I'll tell you right now, that could main event night one. I mean, they have built the tag team titles up enough for it to mean something where those two guys could have that moment. So, yeah, I mean that's really the way I should go. I know you were probably curious about them being in Canada, and I think you
Mhm.
suggested that Dave said that they're both clear. Now I'm curious how that's possible because I know Jimmy has had the DUIs. Is Jay as well, or I don't
I
recall.
can't remember. So the discrepancy or the confusion was over Jimmy. Now, again,
Mhm.
like you said, Jay is the one who's more tied to the storyline.
Yeah,
So all they really need is Jay,
correct.
especially based off the way the Rumble ended. And that does seem to be what everyone expects is going to happen. Jey Uso will appear despite the Usos being told to stay home at the end of SmackDown last week by Paul Heyman. And that would set up the tag match, as you said. I think that's very logical. I think it's the way to go. Again, you know, we talked about this with the Rumble, right? Predictable is not necessarily bad. That was
Mhm.
the fact that Cody was the predictable winner of the men's Rumble was not my issue with that. I just thought the match was kind of boring. The men's Rumble in general. Uh, this I do not think will be boring, even though everyone I think expects Sammy to lose. There's going to
Mhm.
be a tremendous amount of heat. People want to see him win. It's a story that has been built up over time. So I do not expect this to be boring. I expect this to be a tremendous match between
You
Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. And I agree with you. What we're going to get at the end, most likely, is Kevin Owens coming out to help Sammy when he's being beat down after the match.
And I think this benefits Cody too, because Roman is going to be looked at as a scumbag, for beating Sammy and
Mhm.
and whatever else, whatever other elements get introduced to that, whether that's Jey Uso or not. So there will be heat, and Cody. I don't see the crowd turning on him. I know that's a concern, and maybe that's something we can talk about later. But with that heat, that's going to work in Cody's favor as he heads towards the match, at WrestleMania. So, I think the timing of that, works out for him. And I, I know this is a little bit different than what we're talking about, but I give WWE credit for kind of reading the room. I think they have a Cody Sammy issue. So having Sammy come out and Cody come out on Monday night kind of head that off at the pass. It
That
was
was brilliant. Yes, that
it
was
was
very
kind of a
well
way
handled.
to take the temperature of the crowd. Like, okay, let's get ahead of this. Let's not have a 2014, or let's not have a 3-year issue like we had with Roman Reigns, or stuff like that. They got ahead of it, and I think everybody's pretty much in a good place. And if you go, like you said, the predictable route, there's nothing wrong with that. If people are looking for something to happen and you give it to them, they will cheer it because they're like,
Yes.
okay, this makes sense. This is what we wanted. Thank you, WWE. Yay. And everybody cheers. It works.
Exactly. Well, yeah, even when if it's the heel winning, I just think that people are accepting. Yeah, this is very interesting. Let's bring Cody into this discussion now because obviously he's got the Mania title shot. He's presumably going to work. Well, he is going to work. Reigns, assuming Reigns comes out Saturday, still as the champion. Just to clarify something, also too, you had mentioned something Dave Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer Radio that he believes both Usos have been cleared to cross the border to Canada. I don't know if that's the case, but we'll see moving forward. If they're both there, then I guess Dave got good info. If not, I don't know. But Cody, moving forward, coming off the Rumble and the reception that Sammy got, there was a lot of discourse online about, would Cody get a backlash?
Mm.
Because people want to see Sammy now. And I said that that sort of rebellious element of the WWE audience is kind of left. Like that, it just doesn't exist. The people, I think those people who would go to the shows and want something different, I don't think they're in the building anymore. I think a lot of them have just migrated to AEW and they go to those and they're like, I've been saying this for a year now. Now, there's a lot of dead WWE crowds, particularly during the matches, but
Mhm.
you rarely have that rebellious element in the building. The people in the building generally are either quiet or accepting of what they're seeing. They're
Yeah.
not shitting on it. And
Mhm.
so they've played this well, Frank. You mentioned the promo on Raw, which I thought was absolutely excellent between Cody and Sammy. They were very smart to have Cody endorse Sammy,
Mhm.
saying, he would love to face Sammy. That's so much better than Cody's like, oh no, I want Roman Reigns. I want to be the one to beat Roman Reigns. Then you could perhaps have a backlash. I thought they have played this masterfully so far. They have two baby faces, two over baby faces concurrently going after the biggest star in the company. I can't tell you the last time that they had two concurrent baby faces who were both over. I mean, my God, would you have to go back to the initial run of Dave Batista and John Cena in
Yeah.
2005? And this isn't an either or, Frank, I think, with
Mhm.
Cody and Sammy. At the end of the day, you mentioned Usos versus Owens and Zayn could main event night one, and then Cody Roman, presumably on night two. You want coming off Mania both Cody and Sammy to be really over. You don't want to just pick one of the. It's not an either or.
Right.
You can believe it or not, folks. There used to be a time when multiple baby faces would be over at the same time in this
Mhm.
promotion, and I think they're better positioned to do that than they have been in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of points there. I don't think I wasn't worried about a rebellion with Sammy because that's really not been the story. The story has been Sammy trying to get into the bloodline,
Mhm.
which is what the fans wanted. So I didn't think that they were going to suddenly on a dime say, "Okay, now we want you to be the guy to beat Roman at WrestleMania." I didn't think that that was the case. So, like we talked about, I
Well,
think WWE, they headed that off. They had the two of them meet Monday, and I think that took care of that. So, and they're not there with Cody. I mean, the fans are happy with Cody. They're fine. He gets good reactions. I was in the building for SmackDown last year. They did a dark match, and the reaction was fine. So I'm not too worried about Cody. Maybe down the line, it's something to think about because the fans did turn on him in AEW. So
mhm. Yeah, they
uh,
get like and that's a whole different conversation. Like
yeah,
post Mania, I
yeah.
do think there's some questions. Even if you have two, even if Cody and Sammy are both over coming out of May,
Mhm.
I mean, if Roman goes on any kind of extended break, there is a gaping hole in these television programs. I know he's not there every week already, but if he's not there for weeks on end,
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
it's not, and it's
the
noticeable.
heel
It's not
side
being
is weak. I don't think you could just shoot Gunther up into that top heel role and expect the WWE audience to be, doing cartwheels. You mentioned Cody. Okay, so I do want to bring Cody in here. Okay.
Mhm.
First of all, I think the injury to Cody was the best thing that could have happened to this promotion
Mhm.
because when he beat Rollins in Hell in a Cell, people were ready for Cody to be the next guy for Roman. But then he had to take the time off. And I know that a lot of WWE TV is pretty dire if you consume all of it in a week. If you consume like those full 5 hours per week. I don't know why anyone would do that, especially live. Okay. I mean, more power to you if you do.
DVR, baby.
Yeah. But, you know, Cody, his injury, and everyone saw what the timetable was. It's like, oh my goodness, it's going to line up perfectly for WrestleMania. And here we are. And then they did is this Sammy thing kind of happened in the middle. And voila, here we are, where you've got two over baby faces at Mania season. Cody shouldn't get involved Saturday night at Elimination Chamber. I would leave him because you do risk, I think, a backlash. Him coming out in Montreal when it's quote unquote Sammy's time, right?
He could Bigfoot the situation. He could screw everything up, and it doesn't even make logistical sense. It doesn't
Mhm.
even make sense. Like, all right, maybe you could make the argument that he wants to face Sammy, So, does he try to get involved and cost Roman? But then, I mean, that's making Cody a heel. I mean, it just doesn't logically add up for me. I would leave him out of it. Let him do his thing. And I mean, Cody should want Sammy. If he wants him as an opponent at WrestleMania, he should want Sammy to win clean.
Mhm.
He shouldn't want Sammy to cheat or have any kind of
Well,
advantage.
well,
So
I was yeah, I guess I was more referring to, like, the post-match beatdown, but I think you and I are in agreement that that role should clearly be reserved for Owens. People wanna see Owens in that
I was
spot,
just gonna
not Cody.
say, you take away that moment. If Cody gets involved and you take away the moment, it's Montreal. Let Sammy and Kevin have their moment. Let Montreal have their moment. I mean, they've been screwed enough. Uh, Ryan and I just revisited that a few months ago. So let them have and they'll be fine if the two of them reunite. They'll be fine. They'll eat that up. So yeah, that'll work. And yeah, just let Cody stay out of it. Don't get involved.
Yeah, you mentioned the show being in Montreal. Do you remember the last time the WWE did a pay-per-view in Montreal?
Oh, for God's sakes, you put me on the spot. Was it all right? Was it within the last 10 years?
No.
Was it within the last 20 years?
Yes.
Oh, for goodness sake.
It is a very forgettable show, but there's something that I will always remember from
Uh,
it.
late 2000s,
Yes. Let late aughts, if you will.
late aughts. I feel like
It's a
not a
wasteland for many people.
not a survive like a No Mercy or something like that.
Breaking Point.
Breaking point. Yes.
The
Oh,
all submit, which was like an all submission pay-per-view, I think, or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Was that like
and
2009?
yes,
Yeah,
and
and it was because you know what? I remember that now because Tyler Sage and I from the Torch, we looked back at Hell in a Cell from '09 because it was the first one, and Breaking Point fed that pay-per-view. I think something happened with Cena and Orton.
and
Uh,
yeah, it was well, the thing that I remember, it was CM Punk and The Undertaker, and they redid the screw job with Brad Maddox. But when I think about that period, so I was a big fan of CM Punk's already, going back to his time in Ring of Honor.
yeah,
Just a quick sidebar. And I remember reading it at the time. Punk had just won the title back at SummerSlam from Jeff Hardy. That was an excellent feud.
yeah.
And Punk was like really salty about jobbing to The Undertaker and was making it known. And it was like really pissing off WWE officials. Like, how dare this man like will not want to. And I was like, dude, I fucking love this CM Punk. I was like, I just love how this guy just comes. He's like, I want to job to The Undertaker. I just won the title. Love Punk. We miss him. Please come back, CM Punk. AEW needs you.
Yeah.
More on
Uh,
that in a moment. But there's something I want to talk about, this Cody and Sammy dynamic. I want to go back to it again, Frank.
yeah.
I think this match happening, the match between Sammy and Roman Saturday, happening so soon after the Rumble, is huge for Cody
Okay.
because it if it was further, if there was a couple more weeks, I think then you would see the fan base perhaps want more and more Sammy to be the champion. And
Mm,
I think because it's such a quick turnaround between the events,
okay.
you had to go right to it. And people, everyone, like we've been saying, everyone sort of resigned to the fact Sammy's not going to win. And I don't think you're going to get quite as much build as if this event was maybe the first weekend of March or
Yeah.
even a week later. I think that is huge for Cody. And by the way, kudos to WWE. They haven't even put Cody and Roman in a ring yet. Like, I would hold off on that as long as possible.
I
But when
agree.
we talk about Cody not running down Saturday night, absolutely not. I would hold off them being even doing a promo in the ring together for
Yep.
a couple weeks. If you could string that along again, I don't know what the rest of the 3 hours is going to be on Raw, but I don't care because I won't watch it live. But when that segment finally happens, it'll be great. The
Yeah.
longer they wait.
Do you think it should? Do you think they should hold off until like a week before WrestleMania or 2 weeks or something like that? Because with something like this, it's WWE tends to blow their load where they have them, face to face like 4 weeks before, and then they do a pull apart brawl, and then there's a tag match, and then there's some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like this to me is special. Like this to me is very, very, dainty, and I think you have to be very careful with how you build it up. I mean,
I
you
don't think
know,
you can hold on that long because, like I said, man, you
okay,
got a lot of hours to fill
you got
for
a
a
lot of
week, and
TV time.
yeah, but I would hold it off as long as possible. I
Yeah,
absolutely would. Okay, we are in agreement. WrestleMania, the top two matches. Everyone knows this. We've been saying it a million times that people don't need to be reminded. It's going to be Cody and Roman. It's going to be Owens and Zayn against the Usos. I agree. Could be a headliner of night one, that tag title match. And I want to take a moment, Frank, to talk about really what a critical role Owens and Zayn played in this WWE AEW quote unquote war. I don't think this gets talked about enough.
okay,
Let's rewind about 14 months. Okay. So late 2021. The rumor was both Owens and Zayn were going to jump to AEW. Owens, especially. There is a promo. I cannot remember what episode it was, but there's a promo in late 2021 where Kevin Owens phones it in so badly. And and remember, he tweeted almost there. Like
yeah,
he
there was
changes
some,
that, and like everyone
yeah,
was like, "Oh, he's gone." Like everyone
yeah,
said, "Owens is gone. He's got one foot out the door," and then he stayed.
and he was doing
And then,
Mount Rushmore because that was the old
yes,
faction with the
that was
Bucks, right?
that was
Yeah,
the coordinates. He tweeted the coordinates almost there. Yes, but then he didn't jump, and Sami Zayn didn't jump, and then
mhm,
Cody, he did jump from AEW to WWE. When you look back at, like, I hate the word momentum, especially in sports. Like, I hate it. It's a very overused word. I don't think it
me
means
too.
shit. But in the case of wrestling, I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were the two that really stopped that downhill momentum, that downhill being a positive term, that
Okay,
AEW had coming off All Out. Like, everyone was jumping, people
mhm,
wanted to jump, they were the hotter product, better weekly television, and people were like, oh, now they're going to add Owens and Zayn, and then all of a sudden Owens and Zayn were like, no, we're not going to jump. They got
yeah,
big deals. Okay, they
yep,
got big deals. Look at what they did at WrestleMania last year. If you don't think that what each guy did at WrestleMania last year, even though they lost to Steve Austin and Johnny Knoxville, both guys will consider that a career highlight. Okay. If you don't think so, you're fooling yourself and you don't know them.
yeah,
And now they're going to be at the top of, near the top of the card at WrestleMania. I
yeah.
just, I think them re signing, they don't regret it one iota.
And I'm glad they didn't go. I'm glad they didn't go to AEW because, as we'll talk about later, I mean, they just would have been one of, 50 million over there. I mean, they would not have stood out. Um, and you're right. I mean, I didn't think about it from that perspective, but, putting it like that, it's almost, if we're comparing it to the Monday Night Wars, it's almost like your X-Pac to WWF and then your Big Show a year later. It's
Hmm.
almost like, okay, that was when the ship started to turn in the WWF's favor. So yeah, I think them sticking around and then Cody leaving, jumping ship, which I don't think those had anything to do with that. I mean, Cody's issues with the AEW was separate from
Yeah.
Wayne. I mean,
It, it was just a coincidence that it all happened at once, but you cannot argue that that
right,
period was not a momentum changer for WWE, especially the perception. Because if we all agree that the AW roster got too bloated anyway, and more people wound up leaving and heading
yeah,
over there anyway. But these three guys all either staying or coming into the WWE fold, and now being the top three baby faces in the promotion, WrestleMania a year later.
yeah.
I think that is something that absolutely needs to be noted.
Well, it also helped. All right, and listen, I'm not one of those. Oh, Triple H took over. Everything is wonderful now. No,
Oh,
that's not me. But it is better than where we were with Vince by definition of the word better. Okay, so
mm,
let's be fair. Kevin was messing around with Ezekiel post WrestleMania. Now I don't know if that was just okay. We'll just do this for now until we got something better for you later.
mhm.
And Sammy did get involved with the bloodline pretty
That
shortly after,
that was still Vince, yeah.
and that was still Vince. So I don't know what the trajectory was since H took over. All right, Zayn had that big night with the Fatal Five Way with the Intercontinental Championship for the right to face Gunther at what the play at the Clash at the Castle. Do you remember the Fatal Five Way on? Am I
Yeah,
putting you on the
vaguely. Yeah, 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 yeah.
on SmackDown? That was a big night for him. That was a big night. and it ended up being won by Sheamus, but it was huge. And even Kevin, like they got Kevin away from Ezekiel. All right, they turned him babyface, which is a much better role for him, and he's been in a much better place since the summertime. So I think we have to at least introduce that aspect of it. But yeah, overall, to your point though about them sticking around, I think it's a lot bigger than what we realize as far as the people jumping between WWE and
Yeah.
AEW.
Yeah, because at the time where I was like, well, why would they stay? What are they going to do? And
Yeah.
yeah, well, I
Well,
mean,
we got to remember one thing, and this is the thing. Like we sit here as fans, and we want a fantasy book. Oh, this guy should go here. This guy should go there. This guy should go here. And not to sound like a party pooper, but those things drive me crazy on social media. Like you don't know what these guys' circumstances are. I mean, you look at a guy like Kevin. All right, he's what 37, 38, right? Something like
mhm.
that. Whatever it is. He's got 2 kids at home. You got 2 kids. I got 3. You can relate. He's taking a contract that he basically could take care of his family for the rest of his life,
Yeah.
right? And he's not going to do garbage. I mean, yeah, we
Well,
criticize WWE, but go ahead.
no, here's the thing. And AEW would have paid him handsomely, I'm sure, but not as
Yeah,
handsomely as WWE. But I think Owens and Zayn may have looked at it and said, I don't know if I want to work the style that's required regularly in AEW because when you mention the age, that immediately pops into my head
yep,
that I can work I don't know if safer style or whatever, but a more just subdued style in WWE. And
right.
and to be fair, what's so fascinating, and perhaps we'll get into this again with the AEW talk because I know
Mhm.
that AEW conversation really blew up on our in our Facebook group. People really want to hear about that, so we'll get to that, folks. But um, Zayn has gotten over the last 12 months or whatever, not with matches, but with character work. And, and that's something. And I'm not saying that no one gets over on character work in AEW. As a matter of fact, many people have. And it's actually very eye opening who has gotten over the most over the last 12 months in AEW. And the irony is it's been with character work. Look, you have to perform at a certain level in the ring in 2023. There's no matter what promotion you're in, there is an in-ring expectation, but it is still character work that gets people over the most. And Zayn, he's made the most of his opportunity. It's the biggest opportunity. And you talked about Triple H. These are guys who came through NXT, so Triple H does have a loyalty there. I still think that as much as Vince McMahon is a no good sex pest, I actually think that he had this promotion pointed creatively in a way that works well with his audience before
The
he left.
audience.
Triple
Mhm.
H, he took away a lot of the dumb shit, right? Like, fart jokes and truth, like acting dumb. But a lot of the stuff he replaced it with isn't great. Like we'll get to the undercard stuff in a little bit. The undercard stuff is not particularly inspiring. It's just
Yeah,
less dumb, I guess. It's
yeah,
it's boring instead of insulting.
yeah. Back to the Owens and Zayn thing. I think that needs to be highlighted because for the most part in AEW, the bulk of the work that you need to do is in the ring. Tony Khan, you watch him on social media or you listen to him talk about, dynamite shows. Oh, this is going to be a great match. This is going to be a great match. And Wade talks about this a lot. Like, okay, but what about the character development? And I think for those guys to get over, like you said, there would have been an expectation for them to be in the ring, probably a lot more than what they wanted to do. Whereas in backstage promos and in ring stuff, they've gotten over just as well, maybe even more so than they would have in AEW. So I think that needs to be. I just wanted to highlight that before we move
Absolutely,
forward.
absolutely. Yes, I know Wade gets a lot of guff from his Dynamite reviews every week. Sometimes I feel,
Well, you
but
know
I'm not
what?
saying I disagree. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying people jump on him. He's not wrong.
You got to
All
be
right,
careful when you criticize the E, and I'm not talking about the WWE, the E in the middle, the
yes.
AEW.
Well, look, I mean, I think you and I are on the same page that we'll
I don't
criticize it.
listen. I don't do.
We'll criticize it all. Okay,
Yeah,
it's
I don't
it's
do
funny.
WWE is better than AEW. I don't. I look at WWE for what they do. I look at AEW for what they do. This is good. This is good. This is bad. This is bad. And that's
Yeah.
it. I don't do the whole. One is
Okay.
better than the other. I don't, I'm not.
No,
I'm not in a tribe.
No, I like good wrestling. I've always said that. It has nothing to do with the promotion. What's your favorite kind of wrestling? The good kind. And, I know that was a pretty positive for me, 25 minutes of WWE talk right there. But people are like, what do you love WWE now? Folks, I'm the guy who went on here and said 90% of the Royal Rumble pay-per-view was dog shit. Okay, which it was. Okay, trust me. All right. I
Yeah.
still would love the blood and guts of AEW over the Mountain Dew, black jizz match or whatever that was. Okay. All right. But let's go on to some other, because Elimination Chamber has a lot more matches uh besides Roman and Sammy, and more intrigue heading to Mania. Brock Lesnar's wrestling Bobby Lashley. I was very pleased, Frank, to see them working here because it makes me feel that they're not going to work again at Mania, right? Right?
I
Oh
think
no.
so.
Oh. Oh.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? If they're not working at Mania, not that I personally care, but what's Bobby Lashley doing? I don't have a really good answer. I mean, I have some ideas. I mean,
I'd like to
I
hear
don't
them.
know I don't know how they would get to this, but do you do a triple threat with Gunther, Brock, and Bobby? I mean, you
Mm.
might be able to do that if you want to hold on, because here's the thing. If you do Brock and Gunther, right? That
Which
has to
is
be
what I want.
right. Well, and you want it for the Intercontinental Championship. All right. Does Brock go over or does Gunther go over? That's the thing. Brock has lost a lot of matches over the last few years. Now, granted, it's been to Roman Reigns, and
Yes.
there's no shame in losing that. But we know Brock doesn't want to. Brock doesn't want to be a jobber. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like he
Yeah.
doesn't want to job all the time. So, you know, do they do Brock, Bobby, and Gunther, and then maybe Bobby takes the pin, so you protect Brock, Gunther retains, and they have their little moment. I know there was talk about um, Drew and Sheamus and Gunther in a
Mhm.
triple threat, which could be good. I mean, those guys will just kick the crap out of each other. But then that leaves Bobby and Brock again,
Together.
which
Yeah.
you don't want to see. So I don't know. I mean, as far as other opponents, I know you talked about Bobby reuniting with the Hurt Business, and I can see the Hurt Business getting involved, but then what do they do, a six-man at
Then that's going to set
WrestleMania?
up a rematch.
Yeah.
We're going to team with, right? I can't imagine him being in a six man. I don't think you want to put Brock Lesnar in a six-man tag. So look, you hit on the direction that I want them to go. I want Gunther and Lesnar, and they did tease a little bit in the Rumble, and I felt that was
The Rumble.
deliberate. Now I thought they executed it kind of poorly because Gunther's chopping Lesnar, and here's Bobby Lashley's music playing, and we're going to focus on him while the crowd's finally getting excited for this moment. It's interesting
Yeah.
that you brought up a three-way with these two and Gunther. That was not something I had thought of. Um, I guess I could see that. And, if they reunited the Hurt Business,
Mhm.
you've got Gunther with Imperium, Lesnar with, and you could do, and that's the way they like to book, where you'd have, like the seconds in there. You could do six-man tags,
Yeah.
with Shelton, Cedric, uh, you know, Ludwig, Ludwig Borga, and
Ludwig,
yeah, and then and
Ludwig
then
Borga.
yeah, Ludwig Borga, yes, and the rest of the Luftwaffe back there. But
Yeah.
I guess I could see that being like, because Brock isn't there every week. I could see that being like a post Mania direction. I'm going to bring up a point. I actually thought you were going this way when you brought up, how maybe Brock wouldn't want to lose to Gunther. Because you're right. Here's the problem here. I can't see because they are, I think, going to reunite the Hurt Business, and so I
Yeah.
can't see like Lashley losing, them doing a Hurt Business reunion, and Lesnar just going on to go, like that would throw water on the Hurt Business reunion if he just jobs and
Right.
starts. That's not a good way to kick that off. So maybe I just don't. I
It's a
don't want.
conundrum, Kyle. It's
Yeah.
not a conundrum because if you do Drew, Sheamus, and Gunther, let's just say, That leaves Bobby and Brock in a rematch. And you're already doing a Hell in a Cell, probably, as we'll talk about later, with Finn and Edge. You're not going to do two Hell in a Cell matches.
No.
What are you going to do? A fight pit match
Yeah,
tapping
that's
into
the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. They would have to do some sort of gimmick match, I guess, to blow it off.
some sort of gimmick. You're not the Hurt. I'm sorry, but the Hurt Business is not getting a 6-man at WrestleMania. I mean, that's you could do that
No.
on Raw.
Mhm.
So, I mean, is Matt Riddle coming back? I mean,
I don't think so, buddy.
yeah.
He seems like he's having, like we've all gone through that phase, but it seems like, he's got a grill. He's doing a lot of drugs. I think he's doing a lot of porn stars. I think they're not happy with him right now.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact,
I feel embarrassed. I got because 2 years ago I told Zach Haydorn to push that guy to the moon, and boy, oh boy, I wish I could take that back because he has
oh,
just screwed it up.
when they signed him, I was incredibly high on him.
Yeah, no. I
But
mean, is Randy Orton is he cooked? Is he? I don't know what his deal is. Is Big E coming back? Like, have you heard anything about him? Like,
no, I mean, he's been making media appearances, obviously.
yeah. So I just it's the the other thing. Now, you want to get really crazy. You want to solve all your problems. Just do a fatal 5-way. I mean, God, Drew. I mean, think about it like this
Just
though.
put all the
Drew,
hosses in. Yeah.
yeah, Drew, Sheamus, Gunther, Brock, and Bobby.
I hate multi-person
No, I
matches
hate
though
it
so
too,
much.
but
Like it because it's such a cop out.
yeah,
I mean, I guess at least with that one, you would have five of the most over guys in one match,
yeah,
and it's not just like, oh well, why is this guy in there just to take the? There would be some, I think, question as to who was going to take the fall.
yeah.
On the subject of the Hurt Business reuniting, I gotta get a chuckle out of this. Okay, maybe you don't hear it as much anymore, but there was always for years kind of this like WWE like looking down at these fans who would complain about their booking decisions.
Hmm.
And it was funny because so many times the fans are validated. And everybody, when they broke up the Hurt Business, was like, "What are you doing?" Like it was such a that was like the worst of Vince. He just saw two guys he didn't like or like want to be at that level, and he's like, "Okay, well, we're just going to take them away from you,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're going to be nobodies." And it's like if you were Lashley, why would you want to and all of them protested it behind the scenes. I know that, but just like in storyline, it makes no sense why a
yeah,
heel champion would want to get rid of his backup. Like it made no sense. So it's just funny. Like once again, okay, kind of like with Roman Reigns as a heel, which obviously has gone on to be the best thing that ever happened to him. They're going to reunite a group that everyone said shouldn't have been broken up. So
yeah.
I get a chuckle out of that.
And you're going to have to re-educate people that Benjamin and Alexander are worth it. I mean, they just did a job recently, if I remember. I think they jobbed out to what's the two schmucks? Gable and the Alpha Academy. I
Oh
think it was
God,
the
they
Alpha.
love. Shush!
Oh my god.
I can't believe they're pushing that fella still. All right, something else that's not funny, Frank. The Grit
Oh, for God's
Couple.
sakes.
I did get a chuckle. I don't know if you saw the video. Like somebody had isolated this and put on like Edge uh, slapped Beth Phoenix's ass. We all do it to our wives twice, and the second time she's like, "Stop doing that." That made me laugh. It was when they came down for their promo on Raw a couple weeks ago. That made me laugh. We've all done
You
that.
know what? I didn't catch that. That might have been a
Okay.
Raw. I didn't. There were a couple of Raws I skipped recently, and I'm sure I'm not going to get any flack for that. So,
No. Okay. So at the Elimination Chamber, the Grid Couple will be taking on Finn and Rhea. Baby faces, you would presume, need to go over here, but Rhea needs to be protected because she's working Charlotte at WrestleMania. You talk. That's one. Okay. Well, while they've figured out how to do this Cody Sammy dynamic on the men's side, I am still very suspect about this Rhea Charlotte
yeah,
dynamic with Rhea as the heel, and Charlotte Flair is such a hideous baby face. And
it
so
doesn't
like that,
work.
no, she's just not authentic. I mean, the only thing you can really like about her is that she's Ric Flair's daughter. If you're like if you grew up a Ric Flair fan, other than that, she's not likable. But Charlotte's she's not on this card. We'll talk. We know what her destination is. Let's talk about Edge's destination Frank.
Yeah.
Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter mentioned that Edge versus Finn Balor, Hell in a Cell was originally going to happen at the Rumble, but Edge was off acting. So maybe I'm wondering, is Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania, Edge and Finn?
How did he show up at the Rumble if he was off acting then?
That's well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't.
He
He
was in
was.
the Rumble.
Yeah, maybe it was a last second call. But yeah, look, man, I'm just reprinting what's ready to
Yeah,
be.
no,
Yeah,
no. So you're asking if it's a good direction.
I mean,
It's
I'll say this, not to cut you off, but Edge putting over Finn Balor at WrestleMania, and then that presumably being Edge's last match.
yeah,
That's not a terrible trajectory,
right.
I think.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, it'll be a good match. It's not a match that I'm like terribly excited about because I think, it's going to have some length as Extreme Rules did, 27 and a half minutes or whatever it was that somehow got 4.5 stars. Okay. So, I'm not terribly excited about that, but at least, I think the two of them in a Hell in a Cell will be just fine. Yeah, I mean, if it is in fact Edge's last match, and I know there's been some talk about that, putting over Finn, could be a way to go, and we'll just have to see. And I see we had some technical difficulties there for a moment, but you're back in business, just like WrestleMania was 2 years
Yeah,
ago, right?
yeah, I don't know what. Well, yeah, I don't know what happened. My laptop, the charger had fallen out, so I moved that. And this is tremendous
Oh Lord.
broadcasting, everybody. And so I did it, and then all of a sudden the stream started having some issues. So I apologize to anybody listening if we had some issues there. That was on my end. That's what happens when Ryan doesn't host the show and I host the show. It's all sort of technical difficulties. But look, I mean, Edge and Finn just seems like, yeah, it's one of those matches that everyone will say is better than I think it is, and it'll go too long.
Hmm.
But I mean, Edge is presumably wrapping up here, and I am always of the opinion that if somebody is just made, they don't have like this great, like he should put somebody over on the way out, and like Finn Balor could actually use that boost beating
Yeah,
Edge in Edge's last match, so I could see that happening. Because Dom is going to wrestle Ray. Obviously, I think Damian
yeah.
Priest, maybe he might be odd man out in the Judgment Day, but oh well. All right. Elimination Chamber is the name of the premium live event, as you know, Frank. And the irony of that is the actual Elimination Chamber matches are probably the matches I'm looking forward to the least on this card. I think it is total mid card fodder in both
Yeah.
instances. The women's look, I know people get mad when you say this, but I am not afraid of the Dirty Diaper Club. Okay. I think the women's will be dreadful as per usual. And you look at the lack of star power there. Oh boy. But let's start with the men's. Okay. It's for the U.S. title. It's
Yeah.
Austin Theory. It's Seth Rollins. It's John Gargano. It's Bronson Reed. It's Damian Priest. It's Montez Ford. I'm looking at these names, Frank.
Hmm.
Every one of them, save for Rollins, came up through the Triple H NXT in the last couple years, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking because it's been such an issue with these guys failing to get over on the main roster. Okay, why don't they do like video packages when these guys come from NXT, like showing their highlights there, showing that they were a big deal, instead of just having Michael Cole going, "Oh my God, do you know who that is, Graves? That's Bronson Reed from
Yeah.
NXT," and we're
Yeah.
just supposed to like think that's impressive. That was something that entered my mind when I was looking at the names on this list. The only time I ever remember them doing that, and I swear they did this, you'll just have to take my word for it if you can't remember, was Ty Dillinger of all people.
Oh my God. Jesus Lord.
Ty Dillinger. And they just showed people doing the 10, but at least it made him seem like a big deal. Now
Right.
they booked him like an incompetent boob when he was on the main roster. But I mean, why don't they do those correct me if I'm wrong, listeners. I have never seen one highlight. Like hey, you want to know why everyone's talking about this guy? You want to know why we're so excited to have him on Raw or SmackDown? Look at what this guy's all about. They never do
They
that.
did do well. I'll actually jump in here. They
Okay.
did do a long series of videos, but it never materialized to anything. And he's out of wrestling right now. And that was Lars Sullivan. If you go back to the end of 2018,
I know it
okay,
wasn't on that promotional video.
what's that?
I know it wasn't on that promotional video.
He, they did a lot of it because that was that time where the McMahons, promised change, with that whole deal. And, they were bringing up 6 acts from NXT, and he was one of them.
Aren't they all gone already?
They're all EC3. Let's see, EC3. Well, Nikki Cross is still here.
Oh, Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans, one half of Heavy Machinery is still here, and Otis. Sullivan's gone. And there was another act I can't remember.
Tucker. But what a motley crew that was.
Yeah, yeah. That was Triple H. Like, here, Vince, here, take these. I don't want them. Take them. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like
Lars Sullivan.
remember that? Yeah. And
Yeah,
he
let's
just talk about shit in the bed.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, and it's funny you bring that up because that was one of the things when we were younger, the vignettes. Razor Ramon is the one that jumps off the page, all those vignettes of him and coming to the WWF, that made me look forward to the character showing up on TV. And then when he finally arrived, it was cool. So yeah, I don't have a good, maybe they just don't, I mean, Triple H has only taken over since, July. So prior to that, I don't know if Vince, ever thought of that. Maybe he didn't want to highlight these guys because, these weren't guys that were under my auspices. These were NXT guys.
Yeah.
I want to, just in case they flop. So,
But I mean, you look at it, okay, Gargano and Reed have both been called up under Triple H's watch.
yeah.
And it was more of the same. It was just Michael Cole saying, you know who this is, and like I think my favorite one was Karrion Kross when he first showed up on that SmackDown. And Pat McAfee's like, what does that mean with the hourglass? And Michael Cole's like, that means tick tock. And then I'm like, okay, that's a outstanding explanation. And then Roman Reigns, I don't know if I'm going to just choose to believe it was in my heart of hearts that he was kind of like shooting and just shitting on Cross intentionally. He gave Cross, if you go back and watch that SmackDown, the most dismissive look you have ever seen a main eventer give a non-main eventer. He was just like Roman's like looking at Karrion Kross, like, the fuck are you doing in my segment, pal? And like that made me laugh so hard.
Not to start talking about Cross, but I defended Cross for a little while. I'm done defending that guy. He stinks.
Yes,
he stinks. Like listen, I'm okay with depth pieces, because you need some people that can eat losses, but you need to be good, and he is not good.
No.
Caitlin Rose Pettiani, my 11-year-old daughter, was watching, maybe it was Clash at the Castle. And she turns around, she goes, yeah, this guy's not that scary at all. Like, out of the mouths of babes. Okay, God bless him.
Somebody said he's not a wrestling monster. He looks like an airport security guard. You would be able to attest that. Yes. Does he look like the guy who kind of like, helps you through gate D when you're in a rush or what?
He could be a TSA agent, Yeah. He could be one of those guys, checking bags and like, hey, we need to check your bags. We need to see what's in there with those big eyes. Like, get the hell out of here, man. And his wife, not for nothing. She's an embarrassment. Like, I'm actually embarrassed watching the TV. Like, look, don't get me wrong. She's nice to look at and everything, but
her facial expressions.
It's embarrassing.
Yes. She's like,
if I'm watching, I hope Erin is like sleeping, or I hope she has her head turned in her phone so she doesn't see it. Because it's just, I can't. Oh, God.
Yeah. Anyway. So, all right. Back to the Elimination Chamber here. We really got off the thing. So, there's 6 guys. The reason I brought that up is I've seen some people online talk, I can't wait for this match. And I'm like, these are like, other than Seth Rollins, who I hate, none of these people are really over. Now, on that note, okay, I've talked about hierarchy in the past on the program. And I wanted to relook at that with this match because, it's a match where 5 of the 6 people I don't think are really over. And you look at the men's side of WWE, who's on the second tier behind Roman Reigns, who's on the first tier by himself right now,
Mhm.
okay? Cody obviously is wrestling Reigns at Mania and could very well be the champion at Mania, but for right now, Cody is a tier below Roman. Joining him would be, Lesnar, Lashley, Drew, Rollins, Edge, Orton when healthy, and then Owens and Zayn uh, over the last year. Only one of those guys is competing in a match for the U.S. title. And what's
Yeah,
funny is, and that's Rollins, he's the least likely to win, I think,
yeah,
because he's probably earmarked. It seems like Logan Paul is his destination
yeah,
for
yeah.
WrestleMania. I cannot stress, by the way, how much I want Logan Paul to beat Seth Rollins at
I
WrestleMania.
I would not completely rule that out. I have Seth Rollins as a very low probability. I could see them wanting. I mean, I don't think they're going to do it. I mean, I think Theory's going to retain, but I could see a scenario where Rollins wins and then Logan Paul challenges him for the U.S. title.
Oh, okay, well, see, I have a bit of an issue for that because I do think they need to elevate someone. And how are you
Mhm.
going to elevate someone? I think you need to elevate someone and the U.S. title
Yeah,
concurrently. So
yeah,
I think you need, especially because if Edge is leaving, Orton is made out of glass, Lesnar's not around all the time.
yeah.
Drew McIntyre, I mean, how long can he kind of stay at that same level? He had his moment of Clash of the Castle. It's probably not. He won his first title at WrestleMania. He's not getting back to that level. So you do need to elevate somebody, and you really only need to elevate one guy for now. So what I want to see here is an honest to God push.
Yeah.
Okay. And Meltzer, he references, he said, and I hear this a lot from people. So there had been talk in the past about Theory versus Cena at WrestleMania.
Uh-huh. I know where you're
Well,
going.
yeah. And I don't mind that at all. But Meltzer said that doesn't need the US title. And I vehemently disagree with that line of thinking. It's the line of thinking that's made the US title and the Intercontinental title just not worth that much to me. Okay, people are going to say, well, if John Cena is challenging for the U.S. title, he's not going to win for the U.S. title. If Brock Lesnar's challenging Gunther, he's not going to win the Intercontinental title.
What?
That is a dumb reason not to do those matches. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
It elevates the titles when the champions beat stars. I
Yeah.
think the best thing for the secondary titles would be Austin Theory beating Cena and Gunther beating Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
I would say nice things about the WWE if they did that.
Yeah. And it would show a departure. We talked about balls, would show a departure from what they're used to because what they would do, and I've heard people defend this. Well, they got to get the US title off of Theory because he's wrestling John Cena. And then, oh, they got to get the Intercontinental title off of Gunther because he's working Brock. Bullshit. You don't
It
have
makes the
to do
title look
that.
like shit.
And that's really more the point because now you're making the title feel like a prop. Okay.
Mhm.
Now in the long term, let's just say this was what they had in mind for Theory, to wrestle Cena at WrestleMania. If you took the title off of him at the Royal Rumble, let's say, and you put it back on Bobby Lashley, whatever, and he had a lengthy run, and he was wrestling, pick your Bronson Reed in a Haas fight. I'm just making something up. That's fine. That's a different story because you will have taken the title off of Theory to put it on somebody who is worthy of having it and worthy of having a match with someone at WrestleMania. But just to take it off of him for the purpose of said competitor to have a match with John Cena, that makes the title feel like a prop. And
It
and I
does.
hate that,
The
you know.
secondary titles are elevated when the champions beat
Yeah.
actual stars. Okay. It's a
And
lot more effective than, Sean Ross Sapp jerking off to Pedro Morales video packages and saying secondary titles are back. Because remember, people were like in a rush to like freaking like, uh, you know, get in bed with Triple H because he ran one video package on a secondary title. Like, oh my God,
right,
Triple H cares about these secondary. Because no, you want to truly care about it,
right,
you actually make the guy holding it a star. And to be fair, Lashley and Rollins, which were U.S. champions in the past, but you can't let the belt fall down,
right.
anymore.
And not for nothing. What's a story that everybody loved a few years ago? The John Cena US title open challenge. I
Mhm.
mean, they have been dropping breadcrumbs on Raw with Theory saying the champ is here, and saying little John Cena nuances. I mean, if you have Theory retain, all right, and I think you should. I really
I
think you
do
should
too.
because you know what? Now, this has nothing to do with whether you like Theory or not, but it seems like he is on an upward trajectory. Push somebody. We talk about WWE pushing new stars, and we're going to get to this with AEW later. You have Theory on that trajectory. Keep it going. All right. Winning this Elimination Chamber match. Now, granted, there's a lot of fodder in here. Like, well, I don't know if there's really fodder, so much, but there's guys that
They're
really
not
are
over.
they're not right, right. They're in that, but still, it gives him that bragging point that I won an elimination chamber. There's nobody here that's worthy of the U.S. title. So, I'm just going to throw an open challenge. Anybody who wants this, yeah, come and get it if you're worth it. And then,
That's a good idea. That's a really
that's a
good
good idea
idea.
because
That's how they
that's
should do it.
and
That
everybody loved the
that
Cena
that
Open Challenge a few years ago. That's
I
more that
really
got
like
more over than I thought it did.
I really like that idea, Frank, a lot. That's exactly what they should do. And
Hmm.
I want to talk about honest pushes. You and I, on Pro Wrestling Then and Now, when we talked about Survivor Series 92,
Yeah.
we had a discussion about Tatanka.
Hmm.
Yes, we are going to bring up Tatanka here on the program
I
today.
was wondering about that. I forgot about the
Okay, and
Tonka.
the thing with Tatanka is, okay, Tatanka was not particularly good. We all know that, right? But you know why we know he's not particularly good? Because he was given an honest to God push. He was kept undefeated for like 2 years, and he never
Mhm.
really got over. You never really wanted to see him in a top spot. But the key is, and what they with older wrestling is they always gave honest to God push, real pushes, where they were
Right.
like, "Hey, that's why we know Diesel sucked as the champion. They put all their muscle behind him, and he didn't get over. He didn't draw. So you can look and say, "Hey, it wasn't the promotion. It wasn't crappy booking. It was this guy wasn't the answer." And too much in modern wrestling, you feel that guys didn't get an honest push. And
Right.
with Austin Theory, I don't know if this guy's very good, to be honest with you. I have not seen anything from him that screams awesome to me. I really haven't. He's kind of underwhelming. There's a lot of chin locks in his matches. Maybe his fundamentals are good, but he's not particular like relative to how they push him. He's probably not even over to the level of his push
Right.
so far. But I also feel like look how they've pushed him. They made him like, Vince's young boy last year. Okay.
That didn't help. That
That
didn't help.
sucked. And then how did he get the US title, Frank? They had him lose money and fail to cash in money in the bank, which is always like such a loser thing. And then he grows a beard and wins it again. That's not a great push. To me, the scenario we're laying out, he wins Elimination Chamber. He beats John Cena at WrestleMania. Okay. If you do these things, an honest to God push, and the
Right.
guy's still not over, you're doing yourself a favor because you know the guy doesn't have it.
Right.
Then it's worth trying rather than, beating around the bush and just doing, one step forward, two steps back with somebody. So that's what I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
They really looking at the guys in this field. They just need to choose somebody. It's like we talk about Tony Khan, and we will talk about it in a little bit. Like you got a lot of toys. You got to pick a favorite.
Right.
And to me, John Gargano is not an answer. I mean, this guy's gone for the next Ricky Morton or the next Ricky Schroeder in about 6 years. Okay. Bronson Reed, okay, maybe, but he's still kind of new.
Yeah.
Priest is in
Uh,
a group, and Ford
mhm.
is just there, I think, to do some spots.
Ford, I think, is going to get the star-making performance. I think that'll do more for him than winning the title, and that's fine. I mean, they
Well,
could they could put the title on him, but I don't think that you're at that point. There's sort of a cadence to something like that, you know. And which by the way, I sure hope they don't break up the Street Profits and turn like Montez Ford heel or Angelo Dawkins heel. Like, just let them just go their separate ways and be friends but pursue singles routes. You know what I mean? Like, we're
could
just
they
not
be in the Hurt Business? I saw somebody like put up like incorporate them like because
Ford doesn't fit the Hurt. Angelo could go in the Hurt business.
okay.
Angelo's got the person. Ford does not.
I feel
Ford.
kind of guilty saying that, to be honest with you. I don't know. I may have Brian
I
for
mean,
the
if you
obvious
want,
reason.
if yeah, if you want to do that, I mean, Angelo fits it more than Montez. Montez to me still works babyface.
Mhm.
So, but
Yeah,
we're
I
not
agree.
there.
Yeah, he's the guy who's going to get a big spot in this match,
Yeah,
right? Montez Ford. Where that leads, I don't know.
right.
I know a
Which
lot
is
of
very
people don't.
interesting. Which is very, if I may cut in, it's
Yeah,
very interesting that he got unceremoniously tossed at the Rumble. Now, I don't know if there was maybe an injury or something like that, and they didn't want him in there very long, but it just doesn't. The timeline doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense.
that doesn't scream you're getting a big push. I talked about that. I said, who did he piss off?
Yeah.
But I remember. It's funny. You go back and watch the '04 Rumble. JBL gets tossed in like 20 seconds, and then like as he's a baby face. This is when the APA was in its dying days, and then 4 months later he was just Bradshaw at the time, obviously, and then 4 months later he's the world champion. So like, I mean, sometimes it wouldn't be unprecedented for a guy to just get dumped like he's a sack of nothing in the Rumble
Yeah.
and then get a big push. But I don't know. I think I see why people are really high on Montez Ford as a single, but he kind of has to. He's got like some ingredients that you'd like to see, but
Yeah.
again, I don't think he's really shown me yet that he can be a great singles wrestler. I think he needs to be thrown into the deep end
Yeah.
and you need to see what you get. But I mean, like, other than an underwhelming match against Seth Rollins last fall, I haven't seen much from him singles
No,
wise.
there's still a road if you want to do that with Montez. There's still some character development. I mean, for the most part, the Street Profits have been hype guys, and doing comedy stuff on television. I mean, there have been some serious moments, and those are the moments that are really good. I mean, when Montez wants to, get down to business, he can. So there's still. I
But
think they got to take off a lot of that goofiness and cut those promos. Talk about what you want to do. Talk about pursuing the U.S. title. Talk about being a fan. And I was a fan of Dusty Rhodes or Sting or pick your U.S. champion. When you were well, actually he's probably more the modern WWE.
yeah,
So I don't know
yeah,
who he got behind as a
yeah.
U.S.
Well, here's the thing to it, and you bring up something when you split a guy up from a tag team. Okay,
champion.
and you're someone of our age, Frank. We're close enough age. You always compare it to who? Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. And what made
Jannetty and Shawn, you mean?
no, I'm talking about breaking up, like guys who got broke off from a tag team to become
Oh, okay.
stars.
I
Bret
got you.
Hart and
Yeah,
Shawn
yeah,
Michaels. What helped those guys so much was they got the Intercontinental title not long after.
yeah.
And my concern with Montez Ford, I'm not against Montez Ford getting a singles push, but what I've always cautioned is I don't want to see him broken off into a single and then not really doing anything for a long time because it sort of like gives him the mid card stink. If they're going to
Yeah,
break him off, he needs a destination. He
right.
needs to be able to maybe win the secondary title, perhaps as a baby face from Austin Theory down the line. But you can't wait like 2 years to do that. You
No,
need, but
no.
like if he does it within a couple months, then I think you're on a decent trajectory. But I just don't want them breaking him apart just cause.
Yeah, no, and Jenkinson even talked about that in the group. If Montez is a guy that you want to build up as, even a top act, even as a
Mhm.
world champion down the line, start laying the groundwork now. Start on the path, and the U.S. title or the Intercontinental title can be on that path. I mean, it worked for so many guys in the past. You look at, I know he's a scumbag, but he's dead anyway. The Ultimate Warrior, okay, went the IC route. People fell in love with him. He was a world champion. Brett, Sean, even Diesel. He was a shitty champion, but still, they all went the IC title route. And somehow for another, we got away from that in the modern WWE. And I think that's what Triple H is trying to bring back. Like I think Austin Theory is kind of an example of like an early 90s, like Shawn Michaels type of push. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like getting that IC title. I don't know if he's meant to be a world champion down the line. That's
Mhm.
that's not what I'm suggesting. But if that's something that they do have in mind, at least he's going, the mid card title route. Maybe that's what he's earmarked for forever. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's
Well,
it's a
he's got well, here's the
right.
thing, and we talked about giving guys God honest pushes. If he's meant for the top of the card, he'll show it.
It'll have
You,
and
you
you know who
don't
you know who's
don't
going to tell you? The
don't tell us.
fans.
Yeah,
The
don't
fans will
tell.
tell you.
don't do this like tell us bullshit where it's like, oh, he's like the youngest whatever, and oh, he's been endorsed by Vince McMahon or whatever. Show us that you're good, but give the guy the actual
Yeah.
chance to do it. And if he, and the thing is, it's a win-win. If he shows you and he's great, okay.
Right.
We say he's great and
Right.
keep moving up the card. But if he shows that this guy's pretty mediocre, then it's a win too, because you're like, okay, well, we know that this guy's not meant for the top of the card. Somebody call up Grayson Waller or whatever, I
Right.
guess, even though I
But
don't
you
think he's any better.
also, Kyle, you also make the secondary titles mean something because for a while, I feel like the secondary titles were used for, okay, this guy's fodder right now. We want to try to make him mean something. So let's slap the US
Yes.
title on him. Okay. Or let's slap the IC. That's what it became. And that's where those titles meant absolutely nothing. Like I can't probably name like 5 intercontinental champions from '09 to like, 2013, I mean, maybe two, but you get my point. It's
Mhm.
just like if you do it this way, it actually means something. And yeah, so not to belabor the point.
No, no, no. You're absolutely, spot on. And I don't know about you. I would absolutely rather see the respective profiles of the IC and US titles
Mhm.
raised than splitting the world titles again.
It's funny you bring that up because I brought that up on my last Pro Wrestling Then and Now. Okay.
Mhm.
And I have to admit, I said, you know what, each show should have its champion. But then we talked about it and I thought about it after the show. And I'm like, you know what? Each show does have its own champion.
Yes.
Okay. You have the US championship, you have the Intercontinental Championship. The only problem is Roman just hasn't been around as much. He just hasn't been around. So that's why you really haven't had a lot of world title programs. I mean,
But
what have you had, like 2 or 3 in the last year?
but here's the thing, has it hurt the promotion doing it?
No, no.
It
This
hasn't. Like,
no,
this idea, "Oh, we need more world title match." No, you don't.
no. And we talked about that. Justin and I, not Justin Joint, Justin Girardi, we talked about this last week hanging out there in the Super Bowl. You know, Cody, when he's the world champion, right? The undisputed universal, whatever. 1 month he could defend against somebody on Raw. Next month it could be somebody from SmackDown. And you don't have to do that officially. But you can kind of quietly, come up with it. It doesn't have to be every month. I mean, growing up watching wrestling, did we have to have a title match every month? No. You went to house shows. If
Yeah.
you went to house shows every month, you saw it, but it wasn't really official unless it was on TV. But what we watch 3 or 4 title matches a year, and we were just fat, dumb, and happy to get that. So
'Cause it made it seem like a really big deal, and
it
Roman
made it seem
Reigns
like
matches, say
right,
what you will, do feel like big deals when he's in there.
right.
It's funny I bring that up, and this is, I guess, a good transition because they still have 2 women's championships, each brand, and the women's chamber on Saturday is for a shot at Bianca Belair's Raw Women's title because we know Rhea is challenging Charlotte. It's so funny too that, like, Rhea's been on Raw, but she's just like, "Well, fuck it, I'm going to SmackDown." Like, no explanation really why. Whatever. I mean, she gave an explanation, but it's funny that they do it. But man, I said on the Rumble on the Rumble show I did with Justin Joy on Extra, I said Bianca is in dire need of a credible challenger for Mania, and by God, I don't think we're getting it here with this sextet. Asuka, Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, Nikki Cross, Carmella, and fucking Natty. Woof.
Oh God.
Look, you talk about people who you could see challenge um, Bianca at Mania. I think only Asuka and Raquel seem viable to me.
That's it.
Interesting in the Observer. This caught me for a loop. They said the original plan was Ronda Rousey and Raquel Rodriguez at WrestleMania for the
Mhm.
SmackDown title. That makes me think Raquel's winning here if she was earmarked for a title program. But man, Bianca Belair, Raquel Rodriguez, I don't know how that goes in a WrestleMania situation.
I'm more for Oscar. I mean, it's the safe. It's not exciting, but it's more the safe bet. I know Oscar could do it. I mean, she's had title matches at Mania before, you know, and You know,
Charlotte is better than Asuka. I can never.
yeah.
I'll never forget they had her say that.
Oh god. Oh my god. That
And
was
then,
that wrestle. I am still bitter over
and then,
34.
and then she just gawked as John Cena ran off. The woman's undefeated streak, multi-year undefeated streak ends. She gets on the mic. Charlotte is better than Asuka, and now I'm just gonna stand in awe as John Cena runs to get ready for his match.
That to me, and then the next thing you know, she's jobbing a freaking Carmella. All right, for the I mean, it's just, it was just so bad. Yeah, I'm still bitter over that. Yeah, honestly, looking at this field, this is more of the who can we see rather than who's really good. I mean, nothing is really. I mean, I do like the fact that Oscar has a better, a different presentation now. I do like the fact that, she's coming out with her more violent character. Go ahead. Look how you want
Although,
to say.
yeah, yeah. Although the only thing is, I brought this up on the road, but I hate how phony it is when somebody's been like a jobber to the stars for
Yeah,
months on end, and then they just walk out with a new presentation, and
yeah.
we're supposed to act like, oh my god, like this is a whole. It's like it's the same fucking person.
I know what you mean.
Okay,
No, no, I know what you're saying. It's very phony, and it's you can see right through it, and I completely understand that. I guess for me, it's more like, all right, you know what? I'm glad we're getting this, and as long as the presentation continues to be, what she's doing, because I couldn't stand after a while, I couldn't stand comedic Oscar. It was just such a
oh, it was awful, and
yeah,
people liked it. I was like, am I missing something?
yeah, no, yeah, no, it's yeah, no, you weren't missing anything. Raquel, I just don't feel like she's ready. I just don't feel like she's at that level.
That's a match like Bianca and Raquel. They would like that. It's a point that was underscored over in AEW with the recent acclaimed Gun Club match. Like they would have to work really hard, those two, Raquel and Bianca, on like the house show loop to get a match
Yeah.
ready. Like I just because like I don't know. I just think
And
it
the
might be.
size difference hurts. Raquel
Well,
is
I think it's two relatively still green women in there. And, like, who's leading the match? I don't
mm,
know. I think like I could see where the match just wouldn't be up to par for a championship level match. I mean, Bianca had that great match with Becky last year, and
yeah.
this is going to bring me to another point here. Let's go in this direction, okay? Um, First off, okay, this match is going to stink. The women's chamber. I'm sorry, people don't want to hear it. It's going to be bad, okay?
Yeah.
After the novelty of the first ones wore off, all these multi-person matches WWE feels compelled to do with the women, Rumble, Chamber, Money in the Bank, War Games, they all stink. And I don't give a damn if people get mad at me for saying that. They're
Yeah.
not good. It's just people almost getting into place for their opponent to do spots. I mean, the
Mhm.
women's Rumble every year is just miserable. I went off on that on that extra, but something that's interesting here, okay, because we talk about who leads if it's Bianca and Raquel. I thought it was kind of weird on Raw. They do this Bianca Becky Bailey match, which
Yeah.
really, if you think about it, highlighted the need for bigger stars in the chamber.
Mhm.
They're basically saying, like, because Bianca, or pardon me, Becky and Bailey, a lot of B's here, are bigger stars than anyone in the chamber,
Yeah.
right? I think that's a fair comment. And they're out there saying, I want a place in it. And if you're a fan, you're like, yeah, I think this match would benefit from one or both of these women being in it. But they don't win, so there's no change to the match. It's kind of an odd thing to do on your television, I think.
Right.
I think we could get a multi-per because again, I think they're going to look at this and whether it's Bianca defending against Asuka or Raquel again, I don't see the other four having a hope in hell. I think they're going to look at this and say, yeah, we need some star power. I could see like because what's Becky going to do at WrestleMania? She said she doesn't want to work Ronda, and I think Ronda's like in the women's tag title situation for God's sake.
Who gives a shit what she's doing, Cabiana?
Yeah,
Who cares what she's doing, Rhonda,
yeah.
at this
I,
point?
God, I can't wait till somebody gives us the lowdown on what the deal with this comeback run is because it was so phoned in from her perspective.
Yeah.
I've heard things, I can't say them right now on the air, but like something is just a miss. I think with Ronda's whole comeback run, I don't know whose necessarily fault it is,
Yeah.
But I mean, God, I mean, she had all the enthusiasm, like I've said in the past, of someone in an Iranian hostage video in the last 12 months. But do you could you see that where like Becky is doing the what about my WrestleMania journey and my moment? She like fights to make it a three-way. Could you see
Yeah,
that
they'll
happening?
come up with something because I don't see, right? So let's just say Ronda and Shayna are gonna wrestle. Who the hell has the tag title? Is it the I was gonna say the Gun Club. Listen to me. The one
That would
promotion.
be something. Damage
That would be
control.
so I'd be more into that than anything. No, the Damage Control, right?
Yeah,
They still
yeah. Kai and Sky.
that's another mess. So let's just say they're going to get that. That's probably going to be like a because I could see that being a multi-team deal, just to get people on the card. Like I could see like Ronda and Shayna versus Damage Control
Oh
versus,
God. What a
you know,
waste of Ronda Rousey. I don't care what you think of Ronda Rousey. Like, this is a woman who was once a very big star.
yeah.
And for her to be in a multi-team women's tag title match at WrestleMania, what a sad state of affairs.
I think we've gotten to the point where they just don't. When her contract is up, that you don't need her, and she
Like I
just
said, I want to know what the deal was for the
yeah
last moment. Something is rotten in Denmark, I believe, with
yeah
Ronda
yeah.
Rousey and WWE.
Now you just said something interesting. Becky didn't want to work with Ronda.
That was what the impression that I got, or what I had heard, that like, because didn't you think, like, I thought for sure it was a slam dunk. It was going to be Becky, and she was going to get her long awaited win over Ronda.
I figured Becky versus Ronda and Charlotte versus Bianca. I thought those were going to be the two matches.
Yes, me too.
And yeah, something that title change was weird because it happened like right away when Charlotte came back, and Ronda just wrestled. I forgot who the hell she wrestled. Who cares? But yeah, and
Natty.
then God, uh, fucking Natty.
Yeah.
Well, they'll find a. You know what? You know what I could see. You know what I could see?
What?
Natty and Liv versus Damage Control versus Ronda and Shayna.
And
This
like
is not me
Carmella
saying,
and Carmella and Nikki Cross too in there. Yeah.
yeah, a four-way. Now, listeners, this is not me saying this is a good idea. Okay,
Hmm.
this is just me taking WWE thinking and applying. You know what I'm saying? So I don't
Hmm.
want Rick Skelton or Jenkinson or anybody else to get mad at me. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
applying my knowledge of WWE, what I think they're going to do. But can you totally see that?
Yeah. We were talking about how the Elimination Chamber matches, which the show's named after, are like the least interesting matches on this card. I
Yeah.
remember, Meltzer in like 2008, The Observer, saying what a great idea between the Rumble and Mania. I remember reading that. I don't know about that. It's just more. And like, yes, it's like, okay, well, like they only do it to support their silly rules. I feel it's like, okay, well, they used to have two champions. So it's like the Rumble winner gets one. And then it's like, okay, here's the third place game in the Elimination Chamber to determine the shot at the other one. I think the Elimination Chamber would work better if you had like a great multi-person feud going on, and we want to get them all in the like they did with the early ones. And we're
Yeah.
going to put six guys in the chamber when the situation calls for it, just like Hell in a Cell, which Hell in a Cell is obviously a two-person deal. But I've never liked the Elimination Chamber being between Rumble and Mania. I think it totally I don't know. It just makes it's like we have to do these qualifying matches. You just have to like it's February, so we have to find
Sometimes they do
six random
qualifying
people.
matches.
We have to find six random people to go on this match, and
Right.
you see some of these. A lot of people just aren't over in these matches.
Well, that's the problem. Is I mean, you're putting people in there like Kofi. Well, before Kofi was over, you're putting the Great Khali, Santino Marella. I mean, when you got guys like that, Snitsky, didn't Snitsky get into a chamber match at some
Oh
point?
dear God!
I mean, I feel whatever. I mean, it's that's more the issue than anything else. I mean, I guess I'm kind of partial because when my wife started watching in '09 with me, she enjoyed the chamber on the way to Mania. So I guess I have a little bit of a soft spot for it. But I mean, I guess my only counter would be maybe they could have done that, or maybe they could have done it like en route to SummerSlam. So that way you're not doing two gimmick matches so close to each other.
I
And
just
also, Well,
that's
also,
a good go ahead, sorry.
you've brought this up too. You know, you have a Royal Rumble, which is determining, who's going to face the champion at Mania. You could potentially have people that were unceremoniously tossed or not even in the Rumble in an elimination chamber for either a title or a shot at the title. So how does that work? You know,
I
like,
I just don't like the Elimination Chamber being used as a, "Oh, well, this is just gonna be this arbitrary match to determine a number 1 contender." Or
yeah,
just like or it's gonna be for the title, and we need to find 5 people to challenge for the champion. It works best when all 6 people involved have commingling issues,
right.
and I don't like when they do it this way. You talk about people who aren't over. Baron Corbin. Okay, we got to get to this, and then we're going to wrap up the WWE section here. Okay, I don't. I brought this up with Justin on the Rumble post show. I don't do a lot of personal stuff on Facebook anymore,
Yeah,
Frank. So when I go on Facebook and I look through it, a lot of these like recommended things are other wrestling groups. Because the one thing I still do on Facebook, obviously, is participate in the Top Rope Nation Facebook group. If you already haven't joined that, go ahead and join everybody. Top Rope Nation Pro Wrestling Discussion on Facebook. So I see these other discussion groups, and my word, the takes I see in these groups are just absolutely hideous. Thank God I have a good group to talk in because these other the takes I see are hideous. And Rick Skelton brought one of these up, and I saw it in one of these other groups on Facebook that was recommended for me. Baron Corbin, how people I don't get the hate towards Baron Corbin. He's a safe worker and he can be coached. And I'd love to see him go back to the lone wolf. The fuck are we talking about at this point, folks? Look,
who gave a shit about the lone wolf?
that's what I'm saying. Like, is that where we're at with WWE? That we're having nostalgia for lone wolf era Baron Corbin?
Who,
And
who the
look,
hell said this?
people, dude, I have seen multiple people groups say it's like I don't get the Corbin hate, and for all the reasons. And folks, look, I've seen Baron Corbin's social media. It looks like he's a very nice home. He has a very attractive wife, and he can grill steaks. Okay, and God bless him. But I do not weep for this man at all. He has never been over. And
Right.
it's not all his fault. I actually think there is probably some talent there. And of course, the Lone Wolf was his best presentation because all the other presentations were just fucking rotten. I mean, they've given him now 2 loser gimmicks. Has there anyone in WWE history who's been given the loser gimmick twice? Because remember, he was down on his luck doing the stuff where he lost all his money and stuff, and then he became Happy Corbin, which was no good. And he was the constable, which was no good. And what was so fascinating, I said this before, no one picked up on it. And you referenced the Raw earlier when the McMahons got in the ring and admitted Raw had been shitty. Okay. In late 2018.
Yeah.
Who came out in that segment at the end? Constable Corbin. And they told the audience, you're the reason this show has sucked. Now, that's not true. Okay.
Right.
Baron Corbin was not the reason. Raw. Now, him being on the show a lot didn't help. But obviously, it was just being a poorly written show that just didn't have a lot of stars at the time. But with the modern audience, if they've made their mind up that someone's not that good, and then the people who are in charge of the promotion come out and say, this guy's no good, it confirms what they think. This guy's no good.
Yeah.
And he's been dead in the water ever since. It doesn't matter how safe he is or how coachable he is
Right.
or
Right.
what the fuck ever he is. He's never been over, and he's been on main roster television. This WrestleMania makes it 7 years.
It's past the Jake Roberts rule.
Yeah, well, the Jake Roberts rule says even if you've been over for 6 years, it's tough to stay over. This guy's never been over.
No,
And he's been around for 7. So yeah, I mean, again, the Jake Roberts rule, which I talked about in the show before, it's hard to stay over in the same promotion for more than 6 years. This guy's never been over in 6+ years. So, folks, if you want to, I mean, what's he gonna do? I talked about the wrestlers used to have some self-respect, and they would just quit instead of getting a shitty gimmick. What about is that where we are with fans? We're just willing to accept a lone wolf nostalgia run? Give the slot to somebody new. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to people lose their jobs, but it's fucking over.
You talked about this earlier, and I forgot to highlight it. You now have the compliant audience in the WWE. It's a very
Yeah.
compliant audience. It's a very happy to get what they get audience. It's not, I don't feel, this is just my opinion. I don't feel like it's a passionate audience. I feel like it's okay, WWE, yay, we're going to watch Raw, we're going to watch SmackDown, we're going to, and they're just happy to get what they get. And you're not getting let's go Cena. Cena sucks, because those were the passionate people. Those were the leftovers from the Attitude Era that gave up. Okay. They gave up when they pushed Roman Reigns as a baby face and nobody wanted it. So they just walked out. And now you have it. And you know who actually said this? You know who actually said this? So one thing that he said was right was Vince Russo. Okay. WWE has whittled the audience down to its niche audience. And he's kind of right. He is kind of right. You have people that regularly watch the program that are just happy to get what they're fed, you know? And, they look at these guys, they look at a guy like Baron Corbin, and they look at a gimmick that, they liked, such as the Lone Wolf. And, oh, why don't we just go back to that? Like, I, I mean, of his gimmicks, that probably was the best, but that's not really saying much.
The
It's not saying, and
Constable? Happy
wait.
Corbin?
Here's where they killed him. You want to know when they killed him? When he cashed in Money in the Bank on Jinder fucking Mahal. All right, when they were jerking off with him because they wanted an audience in India,
Yeah.
and they had the WWF title on Jinder Mahal. I would have been fine with Corbin at that time, because that was the window to do it. That was your small window. He could have gotten a mini JBL push. All right. He could have been a champion. He would have lost it and he would have bragged or whatever. And that was once they did that, and then they dressed him up in a TGI Fridays outfit as the constable.
You're right. You're right, because
And then the
again,
King, yeah. And then with the King gimmick, they dug him up out of the grave.
oh, that
Okay.
was
And then
I
they,
forgot about that. That was
okay.
hideous too.
I'm telling you, they dug him up out of the grave, okay, and then they shot him and they buried him again, okay. So that's King Corbin.
Ryan Drosty's in the chat. He's paying attention here, and he brings up, yes, the most protected finisher in the world was Baron Corbin. Remember they actually brought this up. I would not have brought this up on television. That Baron Corbin's the last guy to beat Roman Reigns in WWE.
Yeah.
I would not have brought like that like I think that just highlights bad creative to bring that up. Like on the television. Baron, it's over, man. He's never gonna get over. I don't care how coachable or safe he is.
No,
Okay.
he's not. I mean, he is, he is probably a safe worker, okay, and
But
he
what does
could
that
work.
mean? He's not
Well,
over.
I mean, listen, it's if you need somebody to you need somebody to get a win, you throw him in there with Corbin. I mean, that's really all his use. I mean, he's not going to be a main event guy. He's not going to be. It's
Does he even have any value in putting people over anymore, though?
probably not.
No.
Probably not.
People that I want to put over, you see if you're watching the video feed, you see the names scrolling across the bottom. We must now take time to thank our lovely patrons. If you are a patron, you will be getting at the end of this month Top Rope Nation Classic, a review of Wrestle War 91. That won the February poll.
I voted for it.
I was personally pulling for 90, didn't even get nominated. Oh, well, but 91 has what many consider the second best War Games ever. I consider it the third best. We'll talk about that on the show. And looking forward to that. Wrestle War 91 with Ryan and Justin. The three of us will all be together, as we are every month, doing a deep dive on a show from wrestling's past. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's transition to AEW, okay? Because we need to give this debate its proper time. And this was actually the item when I teased the show in the Facebook group, Frank, that got the most reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Meltzer in the it'll be actually 2 issues ago by the time most people listen to this, but in last week's issue of The Observer, said AEW had a babyface problem, which is kind of funny because last time Liam O'Rourke was on the program with myself, he and I talked about how babyface heavy the promotion is. And it's the heel side that really, I mean, after MJF and Jericho, there's just no depth there. But most of the baby faces probably aren't as over as they were a year ago. I think you look at someone like Adam Page. I mean, his trajectory has gone right off the rails. What do you think about this issue? I'm going to get the exact quote from Dave here in a moment, but I wanted to give the floor to you right now. AEW, do they have a babyface problem?
I don't think they necessarily have a baby face. Well, let me start that again. It's not just about a baby face problem. I think they have a running a promotion problem. Okay, I really do. And this goes back. I said this to Wade Keller, and you sent me posts from Trevor Dame, I think. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
One
said
of our
to I
favorites on
said
Twitter.
to Wade, yeah, I said to Wade Keller because I went to the Dynamite on December 8th of 2021. I took Justin with me and our friends Danny and Joe. All right. And I talked to Wade the next day. We did a special focus on AEW, my in-person experience. And he gave the floor to me at the end. He goes, anything you want to say about AEW? And at the time, so this is a few months after the Sugar Rush. This was a few months after Punk came in
Mhm.
and, Cole came in and Danielson. I said, not for nothing, Wade. I said, I don't know what this promotion is doing long term to keep its viewers. Like, that was a night. That was their first night, I believe, in New York. All right, and I'm not trying to make it about that night, but there's a point here. It's your first night in New York, a area that has been very heavy with WWE for the last 20 years, ever since they bought WCW, and they really didn't bring their A game that night. Now, who knew what was available? All the logistics, whatever, but you know they didn't bring their A game on that show. All right. And at the time, I said, they made all these signings, they brought all these people in, but what are they doing long term? What are they doing to keep viewers? Because to that point, and even now, when people talk to me, all right, when we text each other, when my uncle texts me, it's all about WWE. Like nobody really brings up AEW. And you know, we know they've gone through a lot over the past year, a lot of injuries, the whole thing
Mhm.
with Punk. I think, I hate to say it, as great as Punk was, Punk's arrival and departure did well, not that he's departed yet officially, but it did a lot of damage to this company. All right. I think it did a lot of damage to Page too, because he was in the hunt at that point for the title, and everybody laughed at me and said, because I said, don't put the title on Page. It just didn't feel like the right time.
Mm.
And well, when I watched the pay per view and I saw him come in, I'm like, all right, they're putting the title on him, and it's the right call. So I came around, okay.
Mhm.
But his title reign got big footed by Punk, okay. And then you look at everything that's happened. You look at Brawl Out, okay, and everything that's happened since, and you know the shows. To narrow this down, the shows have been built around good matches, sometimes great matches. You had Danielson Takeshita, you had the trios last week, and all Tony talks about, oh, this is going to be a great match. This is going to be a great match. And, I listen to Wade, I listen to his analysis, and he actually went through the card last night, but this is before Dynamite took place. He actually went through it. I think it was on a flagship with Rich Fan. And he's looking at these matches and he's like, huh? Like Mark Briscoe and, Josh Woods. Okay.
Mm.
Hangman Page and Kip Sabian. Okay. And bottom line, what I'm saying is I just don't know if Tony has a long-term vision for this product. I don't know that he has, two or three people in mind that, okay, these are going to be the baby faces around which I build, you know, for 2024 and beyond. I just don't know that he has that vision. I mean, you've got people having all these good matches, but what is it? What does it mean? I've talked about that, and you brought it up on one of your classic shows. You know, I don't mind a good. I have no problem with a good match. I can get into a good match, but I also need to care. I need to care about what I'm watching. And when I watch Dynamite, I got to be honest with you, over the last few months, I've watched, but I've kind of watched half heartedly, like, okay, yeah, this is a good match. This is a good match. This is a good, but where's the character development? Why do I care about these matches? Okay. And I think that's really the issue. It's, like Takeshita, for example, if you want to talk about
Yeah.
baby faces, Takeshita, yeah, he's over, but he hasn't won a match. He hasn't won anything.
Okay, and that's where I need to jump in because that's where this all started from. Okay, well, this is what Meltzer said in the Observer. It was after the MJF Takeshita match, after MJF won. Okay, Meltzer said this. I get it. It's all about building up the two guys at the pay-per-view main event, but MJF should not have won this match via submission, as if he needed a submission win. There are 100 guys on the roster, many of whom are very good. He could have done that with.
Yeah.
They desperately need to make new hot baby faces, and Takeshita is organically getting over, even with losing by having great matches, but they missed the timing on him here. So that's where this whole conversation started, that,
Yeah.
Meltzer saying they desperately need to make new hot baby faces. I am with you, Frank, that I don't think it's necessarily a babyface problem. I think it's a main event problem. And as you so eloquently put it, a destination problem in this promotion. Having great matches, yeah, look, we should not complain about great matches. We're
No.
spoiled, but I think, it's funny. We always complain about WWE gets repetitive. AEW is repetitive in its own way sometimes. Like, having two bloody brawls on the same show
Yeah.
undermines the second one undermines the first one, because
Right.
you're seeing the same thing. And again, I would rather see two bloody brawls than the Mountain Dew black jizz match or whatever. But the point stands. And I'll get into the tweet I sent you in a minute. But wrestling, you want to have anticipation. You want people to kind of know or have an idea where you might be going, and you want to sort of gradually lead them in that direction.
Right.
What is working with WWE right now? Everyone anticipated Sammy would turn on Cody at some point, or Sammy would turn on Roman at some point, pardon me, and that Cody would return and he might be the guy to slay Roman Reigns. Okay. Those two things, by and large part, are what kept people going through, again, what is largely dire 5 hours of WWE television per week.
Mhm.
And now here we are, we're entering WrestleMania, and both things, the people are getting both those things, and the promotion is seemingly hotter than it's been in a long time. To bring it back to what you're saying, AEW, okay. And I think it was Brian Zillum made this point on Twitter, and he's not wrong. If the goal is just to build up MJF, like, to be there, like, I agree with that. Then they should do then that's fine, and it's going
Yeah.
to take time. But just up and down the card, I just don't see a lot of thing. Like, you're right. I just see it's like this was a good match in isolation, but then it means nothing 2 weeks later. Or, even when they do good character stuff, you don't get a follow up for 2
Right.
weeks on
Right.
AEW. I think it's, when Punk came in and Danielson came in and Cole came in, I remember we did the pod and we were talking about all the possible destinations AEW had. And that is what makes wrestling fun and a promotion good, is where it's like, oh God, I hope they go this direction. I hope they go that direction. Right now, you look at AEW, I don't know what the great directions are. Like I brought up with Liam, well, who's MJF's, who's going to challenge MJF? And he
Yeah.
brought up like Adam Cole. And like Adam Cole's return was good, but like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, is that something like you're crazy about? I mean, honestly, the most interesting thing they could have on their television is if the people could, get over their own shit behind the scenes, and Punk came back and they did an Elite versus like Punk and FTR feud. That
Mhm.
would be like the most interesting thing they could do on the
Mhm.
television, but that
Yeah.
requires some people checking their egos at the door.
Here's
Go
another
ahead.
direction. Here's another direction that I would actually love to see, and Jesse and I talked about it. What about Eddie Kingston and
Yes.
MJF? Two New York guys with an attitude, okay? And the promos could be, white hot between the two of them. I mean, but I don't know what's going on with him. I know he had some issues backstage, so maybe he's being, but then, like that's the thing with these issues backstage. Like I wonder how Tony is handling this. I mean, obviously I'm not back there, so I don't
Mhm.
know. But Wade's talked about this where like if Tony is upset with somebody, he just basically ghosts them. He doesn't talk to them. It's like this passive aggressive, like, I'm just going to ignore somebody because I don't like what they did. Well, how does that work for your business? Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like, and I don't want to be dismissive that there's no there are storylines going on in AEW. You have the Danielson MJF storyline. I know you have opinions about that you're going to get to in a bit. You have the story with Jungle Boy and Christian. Probably going to see a match between the two of them. You have Ricky and Jericho. So you do have some stuff going on. It's not that they haven't told stories. Moxley and Adam Page. So there is stuff going on. But I don't know that any of that is really like white hot. Like, I got to see this payoff. Like, there was a time where I couldn't wait, to see what was going to happen on AEW television. And I just feel like that's, not there.
Okay, yeah, I got to jump in right now on that because I saw this on Twitter last night. Because Dynamite last night, we're recording this on February 16th, so I'm talking about the Dynamite on the 15th. Didn't get really strong reviews. It seemed kind of like just a whatever show, like a maintenance show. But I saw people, were having this debate. Oh, just another. Once again, we're a few weeks from an AEW pay-per-view. Everyone's criticizing the promotion, but then the pay-per-view is going to happen, and everyone's going to say it was good, and they'll look foolish. I want to speak on that. It's never a good idea when people are negative going into a pay-per-view. You want people to be fine, yes, if the but what does that remind you of when people are second guessing a promotion going into a pay-per-view and then the pay-per-view kind of is better? It reminds you of WWE, for a long time, right? Maybe not the last couple of years, but once upon a time, I was at All Out in Chicago and Punk. Everyone was so looking forward to that. Or a Revolution in 2020. I know Ryan was at that show. Or some of the other, the pay-per-views that followed All Out 2021. The Full Gear.
Double or Nothing 2022, Kyle.
Yeah, or it was funny because that's the one where afterwards the wheels started kind of falling off, I thought. But Full Gear when Paige wins the title. Or the CM Punk MJF match. You want people to look forward to these shows. And I feel that Tony in the last year has been struggling to build anticipation to these shows. You've got again, here we are. It's a couple weeks out from Revolution. Okay. Their pay-per-views are 3-4 months apart. And they've got one match signed, MJF and Danielson. Now, is it going to be an Iron Man match? Or...
I'm sorry, it's the Danielson. I was doing the Danielson.
The Danielson and MJF, yes. Is it going to be because I remember way back when they were talking about doing this, it was going to be like an Iron Man match. I hated that idea so much because I hate Iron Man matches.
Yeah. It is an Iron Man match, right?
Okay, hold on one second.
Yeah, you're talking about at Revolution, right?
Yeah. You're looking at me okay, it is in the Iron. Yes, of course it is.
Yeah.
So
and they're doing 60 minutes.
Yes,
right?
yes. So here's the thing. I feel like it's interesting the direction they're going for this because I feel it's sort of like a deal where they want to show the world MJF is a good wrestler. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I well, again though, it's funny because it reminds me.
I'll let you say it. I want to see if you say it.
Well, no, because I'll speak because here's the thing. I remember if you go back and watch Triple H in early 2000, those matches were designed to make him appear like an elite level worker. Mm-hmm. And if they want to do something similar with MJF, where it's oh my God, not only is this guy like a scumbag heel, but he can have good matches. I guess there's some value. I don't know. I never like Iron Man matches.
I'm not yeah. I mean, for me, a 16-minute match is just not my bag in general. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm worried that this could actually, in a way, babyface MJF, because if he's, hanging in there with Danielson and he's giving it all he's got and, he's hanging tough, it could get the reaction that they don't want. I mean, assuming they want MJF to continue to be a heel. Now, maybe they do want him to go babyface. I don't know. And if they wanted them to do that, they had their window. So it'd be kind of strange if they did it now, so that would be kind of my fear. I mean, this is also designed so that Danielson can get some pinfalls. So he's got that, and he's got his little credibility and,
I think the biggest problem with the match is no one believes Danielson's going to win.
Right. And there's totally that too. And also it covers an hour of the pay-per-view. So, they haven't, but they really didn't have any matches. What matches did they have until last night? I mean, they had nothing, you
Yeah, well,
know?
that yeah, I mean, there's been more that's been announced. So, they've got a tag title match. Again, we're doing the Guns and the Acclaimed, and then we have 2 battle royals. I hate that again, dude, like, it's funny. People want to say, "Oh, this is," but that is straight up the WWE playbook.
It is.
I didn't get a chance to talk about on the show last week Gun Club versus the Acclaimed. Okay.
Yeah,
I actually I like the Guns. I think they're still kind of green.
yeah,
Okay. The reason I thought Jim Cornette of all people had an excellent breakdown on the match why it didn't work. It's because it's 2 green teams, kind of, and it highlighted the need for house shows in AEW. I brought this up with Bianca and Raquel and
yeah,
them perhaps. I mean, if AEW had house shows, you could have the Guns and the Acclaimed working out the kinks of their matches off TV, and then when they're ready to deliver a blowaway match on TV, you could do it.
yeah.
But they weren't at that level, and I think not having house show you saw, and they're doing house shows now. I thought you see where AEW not having house shows really hurt those teams in that particular tag title change. But something that immediately a light bulb went off in my head. I thought the Guns being the Acclaimed signal that FTR is coming back.
That was suggested on the post show last night. That was suggested between Wade and Jake Barnett. Somebody, I think Jake brought it up that because there was something in the Guns promo that they cut was possibly a dig at FTR or something like that.
Mhm.
And maybe they're because right, don't they're doing a casino battle royal, right?
Yeah.
So isn't
Yes.
somebody the Joker? So the Joker could be FTR. There's your Joker.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Um, Meltzer, he beat me to this, actually, and I would
Hmm.
have brought this up last week.
Hmm.
Like, if the belts aren't going back to the Acclaimed,
Hmm.
then this is a disaster. I think, I think, I'm sorry. I think the ship on FTR has kind of sailed, actually, like vis-a-vis the Acclaimed. I think the Acclaimed were a red hot act, and if you're taking the titles off them just so the Gun Club can transition it to FDR, I don't agree with that. I think that's a mistake.
Yeah,
I think it's a big mistake,
I
and
agree.
I get you don't want to do FTR versus the Acclaim because it's babyface versus babyface. Even though this promotion, all they do is babyface versus babyface.
Yeah,
But I think it is a mistake
yeah.
to to
And
to
now
to, to get the titles away from it, unless if you're going to do a deal where like FTR is going to turn heel and the Acclaim chase them and they get the belts back that way. But I don't know, man. You can't table the Acclaimed for FTR at this point. You can't. I think it's a mistake.
this is not me endorsing this, but Double or Nothing is 2.5 months after Revolution.
Yes,
So when is FTR's contract up? Do we know? Is it around that time?
maybe. I think so.
I'm just wondering if, because doing this multi-team match and listening to Wade and Jake and listening to you just now it puts it all together. I wonder if they are going to FTR, right? Just so the Acclaimed can get their pay-per-view win and they do that at Double or Nothing. Because Double or Nothing I think is kind of like All Out's kind of their WrestleMania. Double or Nothing is kind of their summers. And
Mhm.
Double or Nothing was always their first, pay-per-view. So that's kind of one of their signature events. So maybe the Acclaimed get their big win against FTR, and that takes them to that next level. Because just doing a straight out tag team match against the Gun Club at Revolution, I don't think that really does a lot for the Acclaimed. But if you do
I
transition to FTR and then they have that match with the Acclaimed, then that takes them to that higher level. And then they can always refeud with the Guns down the line. You could do that. I mean, I'm not worried about the Guns having a short title reign. Who gives a shit about that? But that could be the thinking.
so I think the con makes they may expire at the end of April 2023. I think.
Yeah, they could pay him. They could
Yeah,
stretch it out.
yeah. So
Or they could do a big TV. They could do a special Dynamite. You know,
sure they could. So all right. So we agree that it's not a babyface problem. That AEW right now, when you look at the promotion, there's just not like what are the great matches that they can headline the pay-per-views with? Like even with Danielson, I thought they minimized Danielson over the last 12 months. I mean,
Mhm.
he shouldn't have been doing jobs at Daniel Garcia, who's still the third guy in the Jericho Appreciation Society after that.
That was another stupid decision with Daniel Garcia going back to the JAS. I mean, I
Well, I
thought
actually
they
don't have a
could.
problem. I think it was dumb to try to even elevate him because I
Mm,
look at Daniel Garcia and he's not a bad wrestler, but this is a promotion of sharks of a lot of top guys, and you really have to be more than just a good worker to get over in this promotion. That brings me up. I should bring up this tweet that I sent to
yeah.
you and I wanted to talk about because that's the next talking point.
And you got, like the other names too before you bring up that tweet, like Bandito. Like, where's Bandito? He had a great match with Danielson. Where is he?
Yeah, guys.
Like, it's just, they have these great matches, and then they just, they're forgotten about. And that's what I said, like the direction, like at least with Vince, all right. This is not me saying that Vince is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but at least at the top of the card, there's a direction. I mean, forget about the rest of the card, but at least
Mhm.
like you talk about this bloodline storyline, at least there's a focus. You know who the players are and you know who's involved. AEW, I mean, there's a lot of nice talent there, but what about with Wardlow? You and I think Liam talked about that. After the feud with MJF, he was dead in the water. He didn't want to challenge for the title unless it was Punk. Okay, great
Mhm.
call there, Wardy. And then he's talking about Wardlow's world and all this junk. I mean, I like what they did last night with him, so at least they got him in a better direction. But you have story there with Wardlow and MJF. Start working towards that. You
Yeah.
know, is Tony thinking about these things? I don't know.
He might
I
be. He might be. I think the problem is, and we could be proven wrong. Okay,
Right,
I think it's just that you can't see any sort of big, like I always think promotions are at their best when there's a big, tantalizing match out there that you want to happen,
right.
and that it happens. And I don't know what that match is for AEW. I mean, MJF versus Kenny Omega. I don't know that's the it sounds intriguing on paper, but I don't know. It could be like a styles clash. They're going to each want to do their own kind of match. I think it may
They're
not work. By the way, at what point do we start finger pointing at the elite? Because did you see the ratings 2 weeks ago for their? I mean, I know that they were in against AR Fox and Top Flight, who are not big names, but like the elites, since they've been back, they get the Carry On My Wayward Son. It looks like a superstar entrance and stuff, but they're not pulling. And it's been a problem for a while. They don't pull superstar numbers, even when they're positioned at the end of the show. There's almost always a drop for those
right,
guys, and that's
right.
a concern when you've lost.
Honestly, I said this a while ago, and I got made. I wonder if they're cut out for weekly primetime television. Like, to me, Kenny excels more in New Japan. Like watching that match with Osprey, he looked happy to be there. He looked like he was being himself. It looked like and maybe that's what Kenny is. Maybe Kenny is just more about having his, 5-star matches in the Tokyo Dome or, Osaka Joe Hall or whatever, and the same thing with the Bucks. Like, I don't know that they're interested. And Wade talked about this. I don't know that they're interested in week to week television, telling a storyline, cutting promos, building towards something, at a major event. I just feel like, right along with Tony. And it, I feel like Tony sits there. All right. And okay, what matches do I want to see this week? What do we want to do this week? Okay, let's have this match. Let's have this. Let's have that. Okay, but where is it going?
Well,
What
okay, I'm gonna let's put a bow on this discussion in two ways. Number one, because I thought of this. Okay, it's funny because we had I believe it was Michael Jenkinson brought it up.
yeah.
Is Cody's success sort of is WWE hoping that's a green light for people to make the jump from AEW over to WWE? And we were talking about it, and people came into that discussion. It's like, oh, well, there's also still reasons to jump from WWE to AEW. If you look at like John Mox, I think Ryan made that point. But it's funny when I look at AEW, and I think you've been kind of tap dancing on this issue, and this is how I would make the point of a lot of what you're saying. It feels like AEW television is a lot of what the performers want to do. It's basically Tony's like, okay, you want to just do it. And it's
Yeah.
good, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And okay,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, that's preferable to WWE television, which outside of like the Bloodline and Cody, is, a poorly acted high school play where it appears the performers are being held at gunpoint. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, like
yeah,
it's the criticism of these two promotions are at such opposite ends of the spectrum where it's like it feels like in AEW, a lot of the people get to do what they want, but it really doesn't go anywhere. And in WWE, a lot of people are just sort of like doing what they're just saying what they're told, and that's obviously
right.
crummier even. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels like AEW, the individual pieces right now are greater than the sum of the parts.
Yes, that's very
Whereas
well
du-
said.
where WWE, the sum of the parts is greater than the individual pieces. And I think if you're a wrestling
Mhm.
promotion, you'd rather be the latter.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I agree.
uh,
WWE definitely makes it work for their audience with what
I,
they have.
I said it a year ago on Garrett Gonzalez's show. We're live, pal. I said the WWE is satisfying its audience better than AEW is satisfying its audience right now, and I think that's only gotten
Yeah,
stronger over the last 12 months, whether you want to admit it or not. People don't like when I
yeah.
compare when I watch AEW sometimes to like Meltzer watching '87 Jim Crockett,
Mm,
saying, "Oh crap," it's like I like this more. And make no mistake about it, I do like AEW presentation more than WWE, like just, match to match, show to show. But like there is the issue of like, well, where's this going? Have you burned through too
right.
much? One of the big destinations. So here's some tweets I wanted to read real quick, and we're gonna wrap this up. This is Trevor Dame on Twitter. He says AEW has one of the weirdest champagne problems right now, in that their standard of wrestling is so high that if you're not pretty great, you stick out worse than you would anywhere else. But if you are great, you just blend into the whole in a way you wouldn't anywhere else. Being a talented wrestler on Dynamite is like being a sibling in a large family of geniuses. If you bring home an A, people are going to be like, quote, good, but we expected that. Also, your brother got the plus. And if you bring home a B plus, they're going, gotta admit, son, kind of a letdown.
Yep.
He continues, the two most recent matches in AEW that really helped someone gain stock were Jericho Andretti and acclaimed who's COG?
Andretti and Jericho.
I actually have a lot of problem with Andretti and Jericho. Was a who's CO? Was that Swerve and Keith Lee? Is he mean or
What is he saying there?
he says the two matches were um the two recent matches in AEW that really helped someone gain stock were acclaimed COG and Jericho Andretti.
COG. Oh, for God's sakes. Oh, good Lord. Let's see. AEW COG. Let me see if I can. I don't know who the hell COG.
Yeah, I guess okay, maybe I don't know, but
What the hell is he talking?
it's Swerve in our glory. Okay, it is Swerve in our so it's like I said, it was Strickland and Lee. Like I said, okay,
Oh, okay.
I'm an idiot.
Oh,
The way this was written, it totally threw me
oh,
off.
yeah.
Anyway,
SC,
okay,
oh,
okay,
SIOG.
yeah, yes, that's why
Oh, that's why I was getting
he
screwed
wrote
up.
it.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
wrote
yeah,
it
yeah.
very
Never,
weird.
never.
Okay, anyway,
Yeah.
okay, but I said Strickland Lee because that would have fit the bill. But anyway, WWE, he says those two matches worked because in both cases they were the rare AEW matches where fans' expectations weren't already sky high and that people were able to overperform. WWE right now is benefiting from the opposite. Sammy Bloodline is a real good storyline, great even, but it seems even greater because WWE never has storylines close to that level. I would completely agree with that. It's like getting Thanksgiving dinner after a year's long enforced hunger strike. And then he goes on to joke about insert Brandon Thurston AEW is too good meme. But I think there is some truth to that, what we're talking about, in that like AEW, everyone's like, okay, I expect this match to be good. It's good. And then we just move on and there's nothing going on. So we shall see what AEW does moving forward. Hopefully they have big matches moving forward. And hopefully their pay-per-view can at Revolution San Francisco can get people going. I wasn't too keen on that. I saw you scoffed at Jericho Andretti, or I heard you.
Yeah.
That it was the problem with Andretti is again, it was an unexpected win and a cool moment, but is he really going to be able to stand out in AEW? Like, like he's not going to get a real push.
Yeah.
moving
He's been
forward.
off TV now, right? He's been
Yeah,
off TV for a couple of
and
weeks,
I'll
and
tell you what,
even
God, Ricky
they
Starks feels like he's been cooled by feuding with this Jericho.
this is the whole thing. Like you get these guys, you get him a push, you get him on TV, and then Tony just forgets and he moves on to something else. And I think your point. I think your point about the elite is very interesting. Because when you have guys that are wrestlers that are also management and friends with the owner, it could cause. We could probably do a whole nother podcast on that,
Yeah.
but we don't know the negativity that it's causing the promotion as a whole. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up right now, right on the 2 hour mark here. Frank, thank you for your time here. This was one of the longer flagship episodes, I believe, in history, but that's what happens when I'm in charge. I just love to keep talking, and hopefully you didn't miss your flight out of Vegas. If you
Oh,
did,
I got a little while. I got a
okay.
little while.
If
So
you did, I assumed you would have just got up and left, which I wouldn't excuse you for. So,
I'd have been putting the zoot suit on and
yeah.
getting ready to go there, and
All right.
people would not want to see that.
Yeah. Tell the people what you got going, Frank, over at the Torch.
Absolutely. So on Twitter, you can follow me at Frank Pettiani. That's at Frank Peteani. Facebook and Instagram. I'm not the biggest poster or whatever, but if you send something to me, I'll write back and whatnot. Over at the Torch, I am currently doing the WWE Premium Live Event Hits and Misses Report. So you will see one for Elimination Chamber, probably later Sunday. I have to work the next 2 nights, so my viewing might be Sunday evening. So we'll see what happens with that. And Kyle, you mentioned my podcast on the VIP side of the Torch, Pro Wrestling Then and Now. You've been a guest host a couple of times. We looked at Survivor Series 92 and I believe Super Brawl from 1992. So a lot of 92 going on with you. And as you've
Yeah.
said, like the back of your hand.
I know. Well, yeah, and if there's more 92 coming out because Liam O'Rourke is about to drop. Is today Thursday? Yes, it
Today is
is.
Thursday.
I
Yep.
believe there will be a new episode of Squared Circle Gazette where we cover the build to SummerSlam 92
Oh, wow.
with his
Okay.
unique, UK perspective. So yeah, there's even
Yeah,
more 92.
yeah, and there was a lot of changes.
Hmm.
Not to go into a whole thing, but I remember listening to the radio. There was a radio program at like 2 or 3 in the morning on WFAN, the local station here, and it was wrestling, and like all the matches that happened at SummerSlam were not the matches they were building towards throughout '92. They
Hmm.
talked about that,
Yeah.
so it was just funny to get that knowledge ahead of time and then see it unfold on TV. So yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so 19. Well, I guess now pro wrestling it's gonna be a lot of 93 now, correct?
Yes, 93, I've been a little more focused on 98 actually
Okay,
with the 25-year look back. And
makes sense.
Rich Fan and Brandon LeClaire and I from the Torch just looked at the Royal Rumble from '03. So it's kind of a 25 and a 20-year look back. I'll probably jump back to 93 at some point. I do not want to review WrestleMania 9. Uh, not on purpose.
Yeah.
So that is not going to happen, but maybe SummerSlam 93, just to kind of look back on that down the line. Because that's an event that I recorded and I watched several times. So it kind of resonates with me. So that's where the 93. Oh, and in a couple of weeks, speaking of 93, as long as our schedules line up and everything, Torch contributor Mike McMahon and I, we're going to kind of do a megasode. So he's been on a rewatch of Raw journey, like going back to the beginning.
Hmm.
So we're going to kind of scamper through some episodes, like the first one. I'm sure we'll bring up the Razor 123 Kid episode, things like that. So the Crush Randy Savage Summit, whatever. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll be doing a WrestleMania 14 review. So there's 98.
Oh, love WrestleMania 14. All right,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Top Rope Nation, obviously. Let's go back to the beginning here. Elimination Chamber this Saturday. We are still kind of trying to put together when we're doing our review. I also am not going to probably be able to watch the show live, but hopefully I can get on the review. We will have a review. I am actually leaving for Florida next week.
Oh,
So I will be out of town starting next Tuesday, but hopefully I'll be able to get on and discuss the Elimination Chamber. If not, I may have to just put my thoughts in written form on Facebook. But until then, I think it is time we bid you adieu, as some would say. He is Frank Pettiani. I am Kyle Ross. This was Top Rope Nation. Hopefully you had a good time. Talk to you later. Peace.